wake up to the same old fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Hey everybody, hey, and welcome to the office for another session of Tarika Say It Again. And today we have with us an international best-selling author who writes about domestic violence, specifically when we talk about those abusive relationships. And we know when we talk about the abuse, it can not only be physically, but it could be emotionally, psychologically, and financially, and let's not forget sexually. She's going to give us some insight on these things. We're going to turn it right over to her, and hopefully we learn something today.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. We just want to go over a few things, especially red flags and prevention to help those who are going through relationships that are abusive and like all of the things she said. For me, it was a long time ago. I
Mm-hmm.
was in an abusive relationship. It was actually a marriage. And I am the baby of three brothers. So,
Ooh.
all they could think of is violence.
Yes.
And at the time, I didn't know what to do. So I just try to figure out like how I would be able to stay in this marriage. Because at that point, I had children. And
Mm-hmm.
it was hard for me to figure things out because I didn't have a safety plan. I was safety planning and didn't even know that I was safety planning. It wasn't until I got out of the marriage that I started to work at a domestic violence center. But it's crazy how that happened because I was actually in school and I was going for a work study job so I could make some extra money while I was going to school. And the
Mm-hmm.
only job that was available was at this domestic violence center. And it was a front desk job and it was kind of security. So it was me like letting people in and out of the building. And I started off at the front desk and I ended as an advocate for violent crimes. In that unit, I learned so much about men, women, everybody
Mm-hmm.
from all types of lifestyles. Like it taught me how to help people just get out of the relationships and to, make a safety plan so that they were okay. But because I didn't have a safety plan, when I did get into my um, abusive relationship, I just threw the pamphlets away
Mm.
and I just went on with my life. And when I started working at the domestic violence center and I had to stuff thousands of letters with that same pamphlet that I threw away, it was like a full circle moment for me.
Right.
So I did start working in the shelter on the hotline, and that was a very intense job because basically we were saving people's lives and people were saving their own lives by
Mm-hmm.
calling in. And a lot of people didn't think that they were in abusive relationships because they might just think that abuse is just physical, but they didn't know that if somebody's asking you like how long are you going to the store for and you need to be back here in 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
that's abuse. Or
Yeah,
calling,
controlling.
yes, being controlling and manipulative, like saying if you go to the store you got to spend this amount of money and if you go over, like, I'll never give you money again. So it was all types of ways that people could abuse someone. Then I started working in the injunction court, and that was a whole new world to me because here it is now. I get to see the survivor and I get to see the abuser. We have to be in court with them. And one thing
Mm.
that was very, very just like traumatizing was after the court case, the judge would let everybody go. So then we had to let the survivor, we let them go first and
Hmm.
hold the abusers for like 20 minutes before they could go back outside, because it would be fights in the parking lot, fights
Wow.
in the hallway. Like the bailiffs would have to run out, and you have to be in court. You're in court. So it was a lot of confusion, and it was tough, but we got through it. We learned so many like mistakes that we
Hmm.
needed to kind of tighten up on. I worked on the mortality review board. That was tough to
Hmm.
go through someone's entire history, like from whatever day that they might have committed a crime. If they were 16, we had to go all the way back there and just go through all of the incidents that took place to see what happened, what we could have done to like help those people. And it was really, really um it was a lot. But I learned how to recognize all of the different patterns working at the shelter. So I was so grateful for that. And even though I went through my marriage and I didn't know anything, I thought back and I realized that I was smarter than what I thought I was.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's why I always write novels, and I always have a domestic violence storyline in it to help others who may not know how to
Recognize.
safety plan or recognize that they're in an abusive relationship. So even like right now, I'm writing a sci-fi, and you wouldn't think like that would be in there, but I tied it right on in there.
And it's
So
definitely needed. That topic is crucial. And like you said, some people don't know or recognize that they're in it. And I found that some think it's normal behavior because they have seen it or witnessed it growing up, maybe in their own household, to where they don't know that. No, something's not right, or it falls into the category of abuse, where we talk about manipulation and gaslighting, and all of those different characteristics that fall up under those various types. And just going back, because initially you started and you were talking about red flags, and you're an author, so from author to author, with my book Addictive Patterns, I actually had a chapter in there, and here showing it was titled Warning Signs, was one of my chapters, and I talked about those red flags that people should pay attention to. And you also mentioned recognizing those patterns as well. And in thinking about that, did you find in working with the various, whether it was the abuser or the survivor, did you find that they started early on? Like, was it early stages of them manifesting those behaviors or accepting those behaviors?
So with my personal relationship, or are you talking about the abuser
The
or
ones
or
that
the
you
or the
work with.
survivors?
Yeah, for
Oh,
those that you work with.
well, the people that I work with, it could have been anything. Like we would
Okay.
have people come in and it could be like they just met a person, or they could have been married for years. Like we were in a huge inner city shelter. This was not like the regular rural shelters that are in homes. Like this was a special shelter that had several floors, so we dealt with hundreds of
Okay.
people at one time. But like everybody's story was different. We had some people that had kind of similar stories, but people just experienced behavior at the the beginning of the relationship, like just meeting people. Some I remember talking to a young lady and saying that, you're going on a date and someone asks you, open your mouth, let me see, the inside of your mouth. So my thing was, if you do that, they know how to control you, right? Because if I'm going on a date with you and you're not a dentist, why would you ask me to open my mouth? So those are like manipulative tactics used to kind of see if I'm going to be able to control you, because you're being preyed upon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
abusers don't say, well, I'm just going to get with somebody. No, they prey on you to see if they can manipulate you. So it starts from day one. And
Mm-hmm.
I will also tell them, like, nobody is going to go on a date with you and tell you, hi, my name is, let me say Cindy Lou. My name is
Mm-hmm.
Cindy Lou. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to choke you. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to jump on you. Nobody starts off like that, because you
Mm-hmm.
would run away and not stay
Right.
there. So
Right.
you're going to be preyed upon and manipulated. So you don't know. So the thing is, you got to figure out, when you're on a date, the red flags from the start. Because if you let them go on the date, they're going to figure that you're going to let them go in the relationship, in the marriage. Like, it goes on. It's a snowball effect. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it becomes bigger and bigger, it's harder and harder to just walk away. Because
Right.
you can leave up to 11. It's like the number goes up every year. It's like 17 times before you actually leave. So it is a lot when it comes to being in a relationship that's abusive. So it just all depends.
So when you say 17 times, meaning that's approximate the number of how many times a person will allow another person to repeat that same behavior? Is that what
That,
this?
or leaving, like, trying to leave a relationship that's abusive,
Mm-hmm.
because the longer you're in it, the more vested you're in it, especially if you have kids, especially if they have all the money. Like, if you're trying to escape a relationship, it is hard sometimes for people, because
Mm-hmm.
they know everything about you. There's been like instances where people say, okay, well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to my mom's house. And the abuser goes to the mom house and wreaks havoc. Like, don't
Mm-hmm.
even care that there's other people that might live there, or other kids, could care less about the kids. There's been instances where the abuser will take everybody out because you're with the survivor and protecting them. So that's very dangerous when you leave. So that's why I said, it could be up to so many times that a
Mm-hmm.
person would leave a relationship and go back and forth, because they're trying to fight for their life. It's not just about the relationship. It's just like, I don't know what to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's been instances where women have protected themselves, or men have protected themselves, and then they become the abuser. Because being in a relationship with an abuser, sometimes you become abusive because that's what you know. That's what you learn from this relationship. And when you're fighting for your life, anything could happen.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about that comes to mind the fight or flight. And not only that, I know people have actually shared out that they stay just in hopes that it's going to get better. So it's like they forgive them in hopes that, okay, this is the last time. He told me last time that was going to be it. And them just having hope. You know what I mean? And that things would turn around, things would change.
Yeah. And like, when I worked in the shelter, we would see people come in the day after they just left. Like, it was a revolving door, of course, because we were able to help, many people. And sometimes people would leave, get into another relationship, same thing happened, because they're thinking, get into this relationship and just ignored the red flags from the beginning, thinking that that's love, because somebody's saying, oh, you need to call me back immediately. um, but it just all boiled down to the person
Mm-hmm.
and how they survived the situation, and they how they use the tools to help themselves get out of the situation. There are so many instances where I would really, really see so many people return. And it was cool, we didn't make them feel any type of way by that, because we already knew what domestic violence was doing in the community. So it was tough, but some people, caught on quick Some people left the whole state. Some people left the country.
Mm-hmm.
We had to actually move some people because the abuser would find them, and you know, we would have to send them to another shelter for their protection and for ours as well. Because even though they might have been in danger, we definitely were in danger as well.
Right, because you were housing them. So you all acted as a resource.
Definitely. Like, it was a safety net of things. So just think of like pie. So there's, you know, we had domestic violence, also sexual assault. We also had trafficking victims, because it's all intertwined in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But our resources were to, if they needed shelter, they could come into the shelter. Like, our shelter had a full-fledged school inside of it. Like, the elementary school kids did not have to go to school. The middle school
Okay.
kids could stay too. Daycare, we had a full-fledged daycare inside, but for high school, they could go to high school. Like, they were big enough to fend for themselves.
Right.
We also had like a meditation room. Um, there was a computer room, a game room for the kids, a laundry facility. Like, we had everything. And when I was leaving, they were building the dog shelter, and I was like, because
Oh,
I'm not nobody dog.
okay.
y'all,
Okay.
y'all handle that. So, and
But I guess they
like,
have to be accommodating for those dog lovers, animal love. Yeah.
right. So, you, for us, it was like going to work, and then you getting on the elevator with a pit bull. It's like, okay, is he vicious?
Right.
So, um, they would do, like, there were other resources that we had for people on the outside. Like, we had a thrift store, we had an outreach center. I worked there too. At the outreach center, if you had a safe place, you could still come and get resources like counseling. And if you needed anything, assistance, we would help with you relocating through the state. They would give you up to, I want to say, I think it was $1,500 to relocate. It was a one-time fee to help you. And we also had a batterers intervention program. So it was for the abusers. So when they went to court, if you had an injunction, you could ask the judge to do a substance abuse evaluation,
Mhm.
as well as mental, and also the batterers intervention program, especially if you were constantly going through repeat offenses with the
Mhm.
abuser.
And once you started working with this organization, did you find that it was maybe therapeutic or it was a process or like healing for you and what your personal experience was previously? Did you look at it like that?
Oh, definitely. And for me, at that time, I would take stuff and just like throw it away or ball it down or push it down, which is not good. And I
Mm-hmm.
would just move on. But, stuff in those envelopes that I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh my gosh, I threw this pamphlet in the trash, and I should have been reading it. I should have got into this program, but I had help. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
had some place to go to. I had family that would help me, but everybody doesn't have that. But what was healing for me was, I started off as a receptionist, and I just kept moving up and moving up and moving up. I always wanted to be an advocate. They were like, oh, you don't have any degrees. And I was like, I got a small one, so I had to show which degrees I had. Then I got my bachelor's. So then I was able to move up into the role that I always wanted to be in, which was an advocate and help people and, give them those resources. So definitely it wasn't just healing, like, it built me, it made me who I am today. It made me who I am as an author. And I couldn't write while I was there. Like, I could write, but the stories just weren't coming like I wanted it to, because I was busy. It was a lot. I worked so much because this was a 24-hour shelter. Like, it didn't
Mm-hmm.
close. I think the
Mm-hmm.
only time the shelter closed is when there was a Super Bowl in that city. And so they needed like the areas and the streets cleaned and people to move out of a certain areas. So they locked it down. and we actually had to send the survivor someplace else. That was the only time. Oh, and even during some hurricanes, but the building was built to last through hurricanes, so we usually had to ride out
Mm-hmm.
hurricanes there. But yeah, it was um very therapeutic to see people get out of their situation and leave, like for
Mm-hmm.
good. Like seeing so many people from so many walks of life, like it was some people that came in and you could see their injuries, and then there were some people that you couldn't. But one thing I didn't do was like dig for people's stories and say like, well, why is she here or whatever. I didn't do that because it was traumatic, and then I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to like hold it to the person, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
just have that in my mind thinking, oh, this person is this or that, and I didn't want to judge them, so I didn't ask. But I was just proud of them for always being able to get up on their foot and just move on, you know?
Definitely. And just hearing you say that it was all walks of life, right? People from all
Right,
different backgrounds. Like that again takes me back to my book. I always say nobody's exempt. You know, when we talk about those addictive patterns and these different negative behaviors that people exhibit, no one is exempt, no matter how much money you have in your bank account, no matter what your religious background is, no matter if you male or female, because we know males, they've been abused as well. It's not just a woman thing. You know what I mean? So
right.
just looking at all of that, nobody is exempt. And I just like how you basically pointed that out with the different walks of life.
Yes, and then like when I started, it was like 2% male victims or survivors with what I
Hmm.
started, right?
Hmm.
By the time, 14 years later, by the time I was out the door, it was 50-50. Like
Wow.
it had changed drastically. And I want to say what played a role in that was men didn't talk about it
Right.
because of, you know,
The masculinity.
that's cheesy bull.
Yeah.
So they didn't report.
Mm-hmm.
They took it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't recognize it as abuse until it got like really bad. And then I realized that there was some, oh my gosh, like my heart went out to a lot of the survivors when I worked the very violent unit. Let's call it invest unit. But I had to work with people who had been either hospitalized, they had to have broken bones, or, you know, just anything violent.
Wow.
And then I realized, like, oh, this is serious. So when I
Mm-hmm.
started out, I think we had about 19 cases when I started out that the beginning of that year. And I was like, this is not right. Like, and then I had to figure out how I could talk to my male clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough because the verbiage that we had at the time, it was bland, like it was biased, like it didn't cater to anybody specifically, but then it did. It catered to, you know, women and children, but then it was still a little vague. But then
Mm-hmm.
I would talk to them and just let them know like we needed counseling for them because we
Mm-hmm.
had women's counseling, but there was no men's counseling. I think Orlando had the only program that really dealt with male
Mm-hmm.
survivors at the time when I was looking, because I was like, this is absurd because everybody goes through domestic violence, even the
Mm-hmm.
kids. We even had a kids program. I used to work with that program as well too. And we risk our lives with that too because we would have to pick the kids up from their house and take them to the actual counseling center, and that was dangerous in itself,
Yes.
because the
The
abuser
parents
could
don't
be
want you
there,
to let them go.
and the abusers would follow you, show up, because it
Ooh.
sometimes, how people that use the kids against them, or I can't see the kids, so
Mhm.
they would show up, make a fuss. So there's been times where we had to kind of lock the center down, call the local police station and stuff, and have people come out so that we all could be safe. Like, it was very eye-opening, I'll say
Mhm.
that. So there was so many things that happened. Like, my friend told me we should write a book about it, and it's not even about the clients. It was just about working there, and all of the different things that we would have to deal with, outside of the relationship part of the DV. So it
Right.
was
And
a
that,
lot.
and then the point that you brought up about the kids, because we talk about they're the ones that I feel lose out the most. You know what I mean? And basically hearing that the child being used as collateral damage.
Hmm. I have seen so many heartbreaking situations coming through the door, and I'm good. Like, I will help you. Let me get you together. Let me, help you this way. Let me help you get your stuff out of the car. Let me help you this. I will help people.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I could not do was the removal of kids. That tore
Mm-hmm.
me down. That put me in tears. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it happened one time, and one time was enough. And I think the candlelight visuals and going to support the family, that was tough for me. And my boss, thank God, she was like the person that she was. She was a speaker. She was very passionate. She was very driven. And that's the only thing that kind of like held me together. When I tell y'all it was a water bag, I
Mm-hmm.
just be
Mm-hmm.
crying. I'm like, don't get me to get up there and start to test the crying, because that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God it wasn't like too many cases that we had like that. It was very traumatic to deal with those type of situations, and then having to hide a person. You feel like a superhero because you saved them and um got them in, and got them into safety, and it was just, I just love the fact that we were able to help people and just move on to the other
Right.
people and help them.
Right. So, in thinking about everything that we've talked about, is there any lasting remarks that you would want to share for the survivors out there, or those that don't know that there might be undergoing maybe this psychological warfare?
Okay, so I'll say this. If you feel like you are in a relationship that is not serving you, and you feel like you might have skipped over some red flags, definitely call the 1-800 number for domestic violence. They will get you to a shelter or outreach center in your area, to help you safety plan, or help you get out of your situation, because a lot of people get trapped in these situations. So, as far as a safety plan, it's something that can help you not only save your life, but help you with a strategy that's going to help you get out safely. Because when you're in a domestic violence relationship, the worst thing you can do is leave. And leaving is a very serious situation, because that can trigger the abuser. It can trigger more abuse. So you want to get a safety plan. I can't say that enough. In 2020, I wrote a little booklet, and it's like an ebook now, and I put it
Mm-hmm.
online. And I did it because there were a lot of domestic violence cases where, because of the pandemic, the police wouldn't come out and help those people. And it was just heartbreaking to hear that. even though it was a pandemic, but you could imagine, like, at least going to work, you're away from your abuser, but imagine staying in the house 24 hours during a pandemic. Like, it's
Right.
already pressure on you.
Right.
So,
Like not
like,
knowing what's going on.
yeah, and the reason why I won't list some of the things is because, abusers are slick. Like, when we answered the phone, we had to say, "Are you safe to talk?" Because some people would call thinking, "I'm going to call with him right here." No, I'm going to show him that I'm going to leave him. That's not how you do it. That's how you can
Mm.
start more abuse, or just try to figure out a way that works for you, because you might have a level 2 abuser or you might have a level 10 abuser. You don't know if they might take that level up because you called, or you're trying to leave them, or you're trying to protect yourself from staying in that relationship. So my thing is to always get a safety plan. Call the 1-800 number, call your local outreach center number, and work with somebody who can really help you. And if you want, my book is out there. I'm author Amel Henry. My book is on Amazon, and I have
Mm-hmm.
other books on Amazon. I also have um, some journals that I've written for survivors, and just regular journals that you can journal in if you need to have that escape or that release, just to kind of get yourself together, because this is a serious situation. It's an epidemic and people are taking it lightly. And if you listen to today's music, watch television, go see movies, like, it's prevalent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like people want this to happen, want you
Mm-hmm.
to be in a, a, a domestic violence relationship. The music is just, I can't even. But I would say this: even growing up, the cartoons were violent. Like, the cartoons I watched, like Bugs Bunny getting smashed in the head with an anvil, or a frying pan, or Tom and Jerry getting chased with a broom. Like, we see it all day, every day, and we just kind of numb ourselves to it. Even like the commercials with Snickers, Betty White getting attacked, like hit by football
Mm.
players with pads on, and like, that's supposed to
Mm.
be funny. So it's really messaging, telling you that violence is okay.
And you
And
don't think about that.
it gets into your subconscious. So when you're at an event or on a date or whatever, you let those red flags go mistakenly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
another thing I'll say is, we would have people come in and I'll be like, "Okay, so what's his name?" "Oh, his name is Gunner or Lil Bang Bang," you
A
know.
street name.
But even the street name, but his street name is violent. Like, man, what?
Yeah.
You thought he
Yeah.
was gonna be like peaches and cream, and his name is
Right.
Shooter. So,
Right.
so you have to take those things to heart, because of our culture. You thinking is like, "Oh, he cool, that's my thug," or whatever, "That's my boy, he whatever." But it's not cool at all. Like, it's dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
because of our culture, you just took it in as it was nothing, right? So that's why I'm like, get a safety plan, talk to somebody who can help you, and then you can definitely, you know, get out of your situation. So that's all I'm saying. Just take care of yourself, love on yourself, know that you are loved and honored. And I just say, like, God bless anybody going through this situation at this time.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. All right. Well, you all heard it straight from our international best-selling author as she spoke on the abusive relationships. And we know, in speaking of the different characteristics and types of abuse, where we said initially in the beginning how it could be physically. And just thinking about some of those characteristics, of someone hitting you, somebody slapping you, somebody spitting on you, that could be an example when we talk about physical, destroying your property. When we talk about, say, emotional and psychological, we talking about, say constant criticism and humiliation, trying to put you down, name calling. Hey, now y'all know we got a "I'm not your bitch" in here. That was a chapter. So calling you out of your name, financial. She already talked to us about controlling the money, giving you, say, okay, don't go over this amount, controlling the money, maybe stealing the money, misusing the money. That could be
Ooh.
financially abuse. And sexually, that's self-explanatory, for me. It's just a form of control. Hey, so those are just some characteristics when we talk about abusive, being in an abusive relationship. Hopefully, you all got something out of it. Thank you for tuning in for another session with us today. And check us out on YouTube and Spotify. Please like, share, and subscribe. You all have a good one.